Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Millennium TV News. This is Zarian Rahman with top stories. First, the headlines. Top US court blocks Obama migrant plan. Gun control protest sparks chaotic scenes in US Congress. Brexit. David Cameron to quit after UK votes to leave EU. German Birnheim cinema complex attacker shot dead. Syria conflict. US-backed forces enter IS-held Manbij. Army League works for nation. Here's now the details. The divide comes as a blow to President Obama's 2014 executive action, in which he bypassed Congress in order to protect immigrants from deportation.
Today's decision is frustrating to those who seek.
The court's one-sentence opinion effectively blocks the plan from taking effect during Mr. Obama's presidency. Texas led 26 Republican-led states in challenging the program. The opinion, which produced a 4-on-4 split among the judges, leaves intact the judgment of a lower district court, which now will hear the case again. The deadlock was only possible because of the death of Justice Antonin Scalia in 2015, leaving a vacancy that is still unfilled. This is the first tight decision produced by the court as the Senate continues to block Mr. Obama's nominee, Judge Merrick Garland says. The Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals and the Deferred Action for Parents of Americans initiatives had been on hold since 2015 as the court considered the program's legality.
But most Republicans so far have refused to even meet with them. They are allowing partisan politics to jeopardize something as fundamental as the impartiality and integrity of our justice system. And America should not let it stand.
The protest comes in the wake of the recent shootings in Orlando, the deadliest in modern U.S. history. Republicans adjourned the House early on Thursday to try to quash the sitting, switching off the TV cameras.
House be in order.
But some Democrats remained streaming speeches live via phones despite breaking rules on broadcasting. The transmissions via Periscope and Facebook Live were taken up by the C-SPAN network, which provides continual coverage of Congress. One Democrat congressman, Scott Peters, who provided a feed, said the sit-in was breaking rules anyway. The Democrats' protest follows the gun attack on 12 June, when a man claiming allegiance to the so-called Islamic State group, Omar Mateen, killed 49 people at the Pulse Club in Orlando, Florida. Compared to the pressing issue at hand, discussing technology may seem trivial. But the way in which the outside world got to witness the Democrats' sit-in will surely be considered a defining point for live online streaming. With cameras shut off, U.S. public service broadcaster C-SPAN resorted to running pictures being broadcast on Periscope, the live streaming app owned by Twitter. The pictures were being filmed not by some social media intern or techie onlooker, but by Democrat Scott Peters on his smartphone.
Rising to say, Mr. Speaker, turn on this microphone.
Speaking outside 10 Downing Street, he said fresh leadership was needed. The PM had urged the country to vote Remain, but was defeated by 52% to 48%, despite London, Scotland and Northern Ireland backing staying in. UKIP leader Nigel Farage hailed it as the UK's Independence Day, while Boris Johnson said the result would not mean pulling up the drawbridge. Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon said she was absolutely determined to keep Scotland in the EU, so a second Scottish independence referendum was now highly likely. German Chancellor Angela Merkel expressed great regret at the outcome, and EU chiefs said they expected the UK to begin the negotiations to leave as soon as possible, however painful that process may be. But Boris Johnson, the ex-London mayor and public face of Vote Leave, who is now a front-runner to be the next Prime Minister, said there was no need for haste about severing the UK's ties. He said voters had searched in their hearts and the UK now had a glorious opportunity to pass its own laws, set its own taxes and control its own borders. Labour's Gisela Stewart said the UK would be a good neighbour when it left the EU. The pound fell to its lowest level against the dollar since 1985 as the markets reacted to the results. Peter Bild told the state of Hessen's parliament that police stormed the Kinopolis Cineplex in Viernheim, near Frankfurt, after shots were reported. The police thought that the gunman was holding hostages and because of that he was shot dead, he added. At least 20 people are said to have been hurt. Most were apparently suffering the effects of tear gas released as police stormed the complex. It is not clear whether anyone was wounded by the attacker. Heavily armed police surrounded the complex after the incident began. The Frankfurter Allgemeine newspaper said it was unclear if there was a political or ideological motive or if it was an attempted robbery. Mr. Bouet also said the police had an emergency call at 2:45 p.m. The caller said there was a masked man armed with a long gun. It is unclear whether it was a real gun. The caller heard 4 shots and said that the masked man appeared a little mentally unstable. Police special forces were called. A catastrophic humanitarian emergency is unfolding at a camp it visited where 24,000 people have taken refuge. Many inhabitants are traumatized and 1 in 5 children is suffering from acute malnutrition, MFS says. The Islamist group's 7-year rebellion has left 20,000 people dead and more than 2 million displaced. Nigeria's military has carried out a large scale of offensive against them, but Boko Haram still attacks villages in the northeast, destroying homes and burning down wells. Displaced people in Bama say new graves are appearing on a daily basis, according to a statement from MSF. It quoted inhabitants as saying about 30 people died every day due to the hunger or illness. Although the area has been unsafe to travel through, MSF says one of its teams reached Bama on Tuesday. It went in with a military convoy from the city of Maiduguri in Borno State. This is the first time MSF has been able to access Bama, but we already know the needs of the people there are beyond critical, said Gada Hatim, MSF head of mission in Nigeria. We are treating malnourished children in medical facilities in Maiduguri and see the trauma of the faces of our patients who have witnessed and survived many horrors, he said.
Food rations are so small. When our relatives want to help us, they're not allowed to come here. We aren't allowed to go to town to see them, and we aren't allowed to sell stuff to provide for our children.
Before we could move in and out of the camp, we were getting money to buy oil and seasoning, but now we're told to stay in the camp.
US-backed aliens of Kurdish and Arab fighters have reportedly advanced into a strategically important Syrian town held by so-called Islamic State. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said there were heavy clashes between the Syrian Democratic Forces and IS militants on the outskirts of Manbij. The SDF began an offensive to take the town on 31st May, quickly encircling it. Manbij sits on an intersection of roads linking the IS stronghold of Raqqa to the Turkish border and Aleppo province. Viewers, we'll take a short break. China tornado. Dozens die in Jiangsu province. Amjad Sabri, Pakistani's mourns singer killed by Taliban. 2 students charged in India Dalit ragging incident. Electric car sets world acceleration record. Asian millionaires top wealth rankings. Anil Kumble, former India captain, named as new head coach. Let's move on to the next news. Official news agency Xinhua reports that the tornado, accompanied by torrential rain and hailstorms, hit the province of Jiangsu on Thursday afternoon. Homes in Yancheng City were flattened, it adds. Floods in parts of southern China killed 22 people earlier this week. Video from the scene of the tornado shows injured children being transported on the backs of mopeds, overturned vehicles, snapped trees and street light poles and toppled electricity pylons. Many parts of China have been hit by torrential rains this week. The floods in southern China displaced nearly 200,000 people, state media said. Direct economic losses from the floods are estimated to be $410 million. China's Vice Premier Wang Yang has said that China faces volatile weather conditions as a result of the influence of El Nino on weather patterns. Thousands paid their respects, throwing rose petals over an ambulance carrying his coffin. He was killed on Wednesday in an attack claimed by the Taliban. Sabri performed Qawwali devotional music from the Sufi tradition, an Islamic practice opposed by extremists. He will be laid to rest in Paposh Nagar graveyard next to his father, Qawwali legend Ghulam Farid Sabri. Ahead of his funeral, mourners gathered outside his home in Karachi. People from all walks of life, including sportsmen, actors and singers, showed up to pay their final respects. Qawwali music is the words of Sufi saints set to music, which aims to bring listeners into a trance-like state that helps them establish a close link with God. The spiritual songs are a lyrical expression of love with a divine being kept in time to the beat of Eastern musical instruments such as the tabla, drums and harmonium. The devotional music, which dates back several centuries, is also known as the music of the shrines and has a special place in the indigenous Islamic faith of the Indian subcontinent. The students allegedly forced a first-year nursing student Aswathi to drink disinfectant. She will need surgery to repair her damaged food pipe. Dalits, formerly known as untouchables, form the lowest rung of India's caste hierarchy. The college denied that the incident was the result of ragging and said Aswathi drank the liquid due to family problems. Doctors have told her family that she will need surgery to repair the extensive damage to her food pipe. In a letter to her advocate, Aswathi, who only uses one name, said two students whom she has named forced her to drink the toilet cleaning liquid after commenting about her dark skin and the fact that her father had left the family. Initially, when she used to complain to us about ragging, we did not take it seriously. We thought her seniors were indulging in some pranks. It was only when the incident happened on 9th May that we realized the seriousness of the situation, her uncle K.P. Chandran Kalirikal told. When she got back to the hostel, she was on a liquid diet. She was not interested in going home, but we sent her home with another student because there was no one to take care of her in the hostel, she said. Doctors say they will wait for 6 weeks before operating on her damaged food pipe.
The student is admitted in a hospital on 9th. Actually, she consumed acid because of her personal problem. And we don't know what is her problem from at home. And she said on that day, when MLC was done also, she has said same thing. Acid only, it says it is acid. Because when the hospital doctors asked it was specimen you get, when they saw the specimen, it was acid. Acid, that is what we use for toilet cleaning.
In FIR, it is very clearly mentioned that it is she was ragged and forced to consume that chemical. So under Anti-Prohibition of Ragging Act of Kerala and some major provisions of IPC cases filed.
Prime Minister and also ruling Awami League President Sheikh Hasina categorically said her party has been working for the betterment of Bengali nation since inception. She made the comment at a meeting on the occasion of the party's 67th founding anniversary at The organization struggled for the country's independence. It brought all the major achievements for the nation. Now, we have reduced poverty rate in the country and working for people's economic emancipation. Paying tribute to father of the nation Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the PM said that her government has been working since assuming power to materialize the unfulfilled dreams of Bangabandhu in establishing the nation developed. Hasina also appreciated the role and contribution of the party activists for making the organization stronger day by day. On this day in 1949, Awami League was founded at Dhaka's historic Rose Garden with Maulana Bhashani as its president, Shamsul Haq as general secretary and Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman as joint secretary. Here's now the Millennium Information and Technology News. The Grimsel car only took 1.513 seconds to reach 100 kilometers per hour, slashing about a quarter of a second of the previous record time. So far, no petrol-powered production car has managed to hit the same speed in a comparable time. The Grimsel needed only 30 meters off track to reach the landmark speed. The previous record of 0 to 100 kilometers per hour is 1.779 seconds, which was set by a team from the University of Stuttgart last year. By comparison, the fastest production vehicle, the Porsche 918 Spyder Hybrid, takes 2.2 seconds to reach the same speed. The car has been built and refined over the last year by 30 students studying at ETH Zurich and Lucerne's University of Applied Sciences and Arts. Almost all of car's parts have been custom built apart from its tires, battery cells and the motor control units. The lightning fast car weighs only 168 kilos, thanks to widespread use of carbon fiber in its construction. The record was set on a racetrack on the Dabendorf Air Base near Zurich. The Grimsel, named after an alpine pass, is not just a demonstration of vehicle but has also been used extensively in the Formula student race competition. Online reports suggest Apple plans to omit the 3.5mm socket to make the iPhone 7 thinner and more waterproof, with more room for the battery. The Fast company reported it would rely on the Lightning cable port currently used for charging for sound output. Others suggest Apple will ship the iPhone 7 with wireless headphones. The Some of Us, a website fighting for people over profits, which organized the petition, said not only will this force iPhone users to dole out additional cash to replace their hi-fi headphones, it will single-handedly create mountains of electronic waste that likely won't get recycled. Tech website The Verge said removing headphones from phones is something that no one is asking for and has serious drawbacks, including poor compatibility and accessibility. Many complained on Twitter that removing the socket would render expensive headphones useless. Here's now the Millennium Business News. China's SunPower confirmed it had put in a joint bid with Beijing Tourism Group. There are more than 2,200 McDonald's in China, with plans to open 1,250 more. In March, McDonald's had said it would recognize its business in China, seeking to franchise its restaurants. Media reports have suggested that the US company has received more than half a dozen bids, which could raise as much as $3 billion. Competitor Yum Brands The owner of KFC and Pizza Hut is also restructuring its China business with plans to spin it off ahead of a likely initial public offering of shares in 2017. In recent years, we are building more offline commercial stores, aiming to provide better shopping experience for consumers. McDonald's could provide new brand elements for us, SunPower spokesman Zhu Yan said in an email. Driven by China and Japan, Asia's millionaires saw their wealth jump by 10% in 2015, the firm's World Wealth report found. Millionaires held nearly $60 trillion worldwide last year, 4 times higher than 30 years ago. That could rise to $100 trillion by 2025. Capgemini said Asia's growth in high net worth individuals, defined as having $1 million in assets, came despite slowing economic growth in China and a weak Japanese economy. Capgemini found the growth in Asia was driven mainly by financial services, technology and healthcare industries. Poor performance in U.S. equity markets slowed growth in North America to 2.3% last year. Although the U.S. still had the highest number of millionaires with 4.45 million. Europe's millionaires saw a 4.8% increase in wealth, which was led by Spain despite the country's record unemployment. The UK had the 5th highest number of high net worth individuals, although it only increased 1% to 553,000. Latin American millionaires suffered a decline in net worth of 3.7%, driven by political volatility and a turbulent stock market in Brazil. Worldwide, the wealth controlled by millionaires grew 4% last year to $58.7 trillion. Earlier this year, Oxfam found that the richest 1% now have as much wealth as the rest of the world combined. Here's now the Millennium Sports News. There were reports that Rooney, who came on as a second-half substitute, was surprised at being left out. But he insisted England were a happy camp at the moment. He added, "I respect Roy's decision. As a player, you want to play, but going into the last 16 game against Iceland, I'll be a lot fresher." As well as Rooney, Hodgson also chose to leave out Kyle Walker, Danny Rose, Dele Alli, Raheem Sterling and Harry Kane for Monday's final Group B game. The draw meant England lost out on top spot to Wales. They now face Iceland on Monday for a place in the quarter-finals of Euro 2016, while Wales meet Northern Ireland on Saturday. However, Rooney, 30, thinks differently. "In my eyes, the group games have been good because we could have got false hope if we'd won all of them 2-0 or 3-0. said the Manchester United player. "We're confident and we believe we can go to the end of this competition. If we play our best, we can give anyone a game and win." Anil Kumble, 45, has no international or first-class coaching experience but is India's leading test wicket taker with 619 wickets in 132 games. India have been without a head coach since Duncan Fletcher left the role after the 2015 World Cup. Former team director Ravi Shastri has overseen India's recent World 2020 and Asia Cup campaigns. Kumble previously served as the Cricket Committee Chairman of the International Cricket Council from 2012 to 2016 after retiring from cricket. A panel comprising former players Sachin Tendulkar, VVS Lakshman and Sourav Ganguly made the decision to appoint Kumble after an 18-month search. India won the 2013 Champions Trophy under Fletcher but suffered a 3-1 defeat in their last Test series in England in 2014 and failed to defend their World Cup title. Under Shastri's guidance, they reached the semi-finals of the World 2020 in March, with captain Virat Kohli becoming the ICC #1 ranked T20 batsman. Viewers, let's have a look at Millennium TV News Recap. Top US court blocks Obama migrant plan. Gun control protest sparks chaotic scenes in US Congress. Brexit. David Cameron to quit after UK votes to leave EU. German Birnheim cinema complex attacker shot dead. Syria conflict. US-backed forces enter IS-held Manbij. Army League works for nation. You are up to date with our top stories so far here on Millennium TV. And don't forget to log in to www.millenniumtv.net. Thank you and stay with Millennium TV. Allah Hafiz.